Thank you for watching Scary Bear Attacks. If you like this episode, please remember to hit the like button and leave a comment or two, then subscribe and click on the bell to receive notifications of whenever we release new videos. Also, please remember to share them to your social media. Before dawn had fully lifted the chill from the narrow streets of Sanahe town, the ramen shop was already alive with quiet preparations. Steam rose in soft ghostly ribbons from the broth pots, drifting upward toward the dark beams of the kitchen ceiling. Outside, the faintest trace of winter clung to the air, carrying that mix of cedar and distant wood smoke that characterizes the early mornings of northern Honshu. The cook, a man in his late 50s who had spent decades tending these pots, moved with the certainty of long-practiced motions. He tightened his apron, stirred the stock, and breathed in the steady comfort of soy, kombu, and simmering bones. What he didn't know was that something else was breathing in the cold air behind him, something wild and hungry, moving in the margin where the forest pressed too close to the town. Welcome back to Scary Bear Attacks. The region surrounding Sanahe town, on the island of Honshu in Japan, is a mosaic of forested lowlands, river-cut fields, threaded through the foothills of the Ao Mountains. Japanese beech and northern hardwoods dominate these slopes, their leaves carpeting the forest floor in thick mats that crunch beneath the paws of deer and boar. Higher up the ridges, stands of fir and spruce cling to the colder elevations where winter lingers long after the valleys thaw. The Asian black bear roams through these same woodlands, using clearings, abandoned farms, and narrow ravines as travel corridors. These are landscapes shaped equally by ancient forests and centuries of human cultivation, forming a patchwork that blurs the boundary between wild and domestic spaces. In this region, large plant-eating animals like cicada and wild boar are common, their foraging patterns influencing the undergrowth and drawing predators to areas where vegetation lies disturbed. Among the carnivores, the Asian black bear reigns as the most consequential presence, capable of crossing from deep forest to village edge in a single night. Although not as large as other bear species, it is powerful, agile, and remarkably persistent when driven by hunger or altered seasonal changes. Japan's shifting demography and culture have begun to change the rhythms of these animals, with warmer autumns delaying hibernation and pushing bears into communities at times when they would normally be denned up for hibernation. The cook at the center of this story had lived through many seasons of coexistence with these bears. His shop had stood on the same corner for years, its weathered wooden facade lit by a lantern that swayed gently in the wind. He'd cooked through storms, holidays, and the quiet pre-dawn hours when only delivery drivers and stray cats moved through the alleys. What he could not have anticipated was that the local bear population had been experiencing food stress, and what he was cooking was so aromatic. He carried no bear spray, as such an item is far less common in the daily routine of a kitchen than in the mountain villages farther inland. He had no weapon, no dog at his side, and no expectation that the wild would breach the threshold of his workplace. The rustling he heard in the bushes outside could have easily been mistaken for any number of animals, but there was no way he could have expected the animal that was responsible. To understand the lead-up to this episode, one must look at the broader pattern unfolding across Japan. The country has found itself in the midst of an unprecedented surge in bear-human conflict. Since early spring of 2025, news outlets have documented a steady rise in deadly encounters. By the time November rolled around, at least 11 people had been killed by bears throughout the nation, with hundreds more suffering injuries ranging from superficial bites to life-threatening trauma. Rural communities across Hokkaido, Akita, Iwate, Aomori, and Yamagata prefectures have seen bears wandering through fields, raiding gardens, attacking farmers, and entering barns and sheds. Several hikers were killed on mountain trails. One woman died while foraging for edible plants. Elderly residents have been assaulted in their yards, some startled while picking persimmons or hanging laundry. The United States Embassy in Tokyo even issued an advisory urging foreign residents to exercise heightened caution, an unusual step underscoring the severity of the trend. Many factors underlie this surge. Variation in seasonal change has altered bear hibernation timing, pushing some individuals to remain active later into winter as rising temperatures and irregular snowfall patterns disrupt their instinctual cues. Poor acorn and beech mast seasons have forced bears into populated areas in search of alternative food. Habitat fragmentation has cut the forests into isolated patches, and younger bears, less skilled at locating food, wander into farmland and settlements as their territories shrink. The public has also grown less accustomed to traditional methods of avoiding bear conflict, as urban migration has thinned the rural populations once most experienced with living alongside wildlife. These larger pressures all feed into the narrative surrounding the ramen shop attack, demonstrating that even a single, seemingly isolated encounter is tied to broader environmental and societal patterns. In the early morning hours of November 9, 2025, a 57-year-old ramen cook, whom we'll refer to as Akira, had been preparing the day's ramen inventory, which required mixing and stewing a few ingredients. He had been working his ramen stand for several years, and still found the work enjoyable and rewarding. As the pot of stock steamed on the burner, Akira recalled that he had forgotten to add one key ingredient. He knew his supply was stashed near the back door, and went to grab a bottle for today's recipe. As he approached the spice rack, a bear lunged at him. Its height was described as roughly 1 meter, suggesting a young, but not necessarily small, individual. Asiatic black bears are extremely stout, so even a short bear can be deceptively heavier than appearances suggest. Before Akira could process the bear's presence, it quickly swatted him across the forehead in a strike that had much more force than expected. He immediately staggered and felt blood trickling from the gashes the bear ripped in his flesh. Hearing Akira's terrified screams, the bear retreated just a few feet. Now standing outside the back door, the bear turned toward the man and seemed to ready itself for another attack. Akira didn't wait around to see the results of a follow-up and pressed his body weight behind the door, forcing the bear out of the kitchen. Now, Japanese people are known for their intelligence, resourcefulness, and sense of duty, and these values and characteristics didn't fail Akira. Knowing he was safe from the bear, given it was outside the building, and his business required his undivided attention, he wiped the blood from his wounds and returned to cooking. His hands likely shook as he finished the morning cooking chores, but as soon as he was finished, he notified authorities and requested medical assistance. Once emergency responders arrived, they found him still at his station, splatters of blood marking the floor beneath him. His injuries, while dramatic in appearance, were classified as relatively minor. The wounds above his eyelid and along his nose required cleaning and suturing, but he was discharged the same day and returned briefly to the shop as reporters gathered outside. The bear fled into the surrounding neighborhood, prompting local authorities to search nearby woodlots and alleys. It is unclear whether the animal was later located or whether it continued roaming the outskirts of the community. That uncertainty leaves a lingering tension in the community, and citizens are on edge. The wider implications of this attack ripple through Japan's ongoing struggle with increasing bear encounters. Government officials, wildlife specialists, and local leaders have debated how to best respond. Some argue for expanding trapping and relocation programs, while others call for heightened public awareness campaigns. Meanwhile, communities already stretched thin by labor shortages and aging populations must now navigate a new era of heightened vigilance, where even a restaurant kitchen is not immune to the presence of a hungry bear. As for why this bear attacked, several possible motives emerge. The most likely explanation is food stress, leading to unusual boldness near human settlements. Alternatively, the bear may have been young and inexperienced, drawn by the scent of cooking broth and unaware of the danger posed by entering a building. It could also have been startled when the cook entered the back room, responding with an instinctive defensive swipe. All of these motives remain plausible, but there was no animal carcass cached nearby. The bear was reacting defensively to protect itself from what it perceived as a sudden threat and was not defending cubs. Speaking of Cubs, our Cub tier membership on Patreon, linked below, will give you ad-free early access to episodes, photos, and notes. And the $3 per month goes a long way in helping me continue to produce educational and entertaining content like this. After reviewing the facts surrounding this episode, I'm left with a few questions for you. What is the solution to the problem of urbanization of the young Japanese people, which depletes the agricultural boundary around the cities and towns? What steps should rural communities take when the wild arrives not on a hiking trail, but through the back door of a business? And how can people maintain cultural harmony with a species that is both respected in folklore and feared in sudden violent moments? These questions will persist as long as bears continue to walk the line between forest and town, driven by instincts older than any city or shop. And for one ramen cook in Sanohei town, that line was crossed one November morning, in a way he will never forget. I will gladly read and reply to your thoughts, so post them in the comments section below, and let's talk about it. Thank you for watching Scary Bear Attacks. If you've enjoyed this episode, please consider clicking on the like button and clicking on the bell icon. We'll help you know when we post our new episodes. Posting our video links to your social media profiles furthers awareness, and it's fun. We slashed our prices in our merch store, linked below, so check out the bargains there while you shop. As a member of our human community, remember to adventure bravely and be careful out there, especially in bear country.